Hello, and welcome to Life Edge, because life, it doesn't have to be that mediocre. I'm Sarah Muliati, and this is my co-host, Dr. Susan Nash. How are you doing today, Susan?
Great. I'm in Houston, Texas, and we're having a hackathon where we've got a group of people hacking Python code to predict reservoir flow.
Gosh, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, and we have a guest today that has a company that is doing a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning as well, and it's Sasha Gumprecht, and she's here to talk to us.
Great. So let's run our intro and get started. And we're back. And as you can see, we have another all-girls Life Edge. How are you doing, Sasha? It's nice to meet you.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. So would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
My name's Sasha Gumprecht. I'm a business development consultant with 3GIG. I have a background in petroleum geoscience. I have a master's from Royal Holloway, University of London. And I recently have finished my MBA at Rice University, and I work as a G&G technical consultant as well as on the business development side of 3GIG. So I've been working there for about 3 years now, and yeah, we're excited for ERTech, and we'll have a booth with one of our partners. So come see us and check us out.
That's great. Well, Sasha, I'm really interested in why you study geosciences. I mean, I know what I did as a child, and but I think every person comes to geology from a different point of view and different path.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I actually did my major in geology in order to finish my pre-dentistry credits in undergrad. And so I was on track to do military dentistry, but somehow I ended up working for a gentleman after a few years after undergrad who was an oil and gas geologist, and I ended up working with him for about a year. He kind of showed me the ropes of oil and gas and what an exciting career it can be, and I kind of drank the Kool-Aid from there and went on and got my master's in petroleum geoscience, and have stayed in the oil industry ever since. So mine was just kind of out of sheer luck and just the way things work. So, and I absolutely love it.
Okay, so I started laughing because I had a crazy thought. Do you have a large collection of shark's teeth?
It's funny enough, no, I don't. And I'm actually not much of a rock geologist per se. I somehow managed to skip all the intro, because I'm probably embarrassing, the intro geology courses in undergrad, because I came into the program late. And so I mean, I love structural geology and seismic and whatnot, but all the field trips that we went on, and I was trying to catch up and learn about rock types and identifying them. I usually was too sick in the back of the van getting car sickness. So, yes, sadly, I don't have a huge rock collection or teeth or anything of that sort. But I envy all of my other geologists, all my other friends that, have big love for it and can point them all out to me.
Well, it's never too late to find shark's teeth.
Yeah.
And get back into dentistry.
Maybe we'll have to go get some sometime. Yeah. I'll be the Sherpa. I'll put them in my backpack, and you can find them, and I'll just pick them up and carry them for us.
You can be their shark's dentist.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you get involved in 3GIG, and what is it?
So I again, kind of through happenstance, after I finished my degree in petroleum geoscience, I was introduced to my boss, who is the CEO of 3GIG, through some friends that she used to work with back at Landmark Halliburton. And what 3GIG is we are a company that we sell a platform, and I'm not very technical in the sense of IT or whatnot, but ultimately what 3GIG is trying to do is a park management consultant part software. And so we come into oil and gas companies, and the leadership of what we call the Oval Office. So that's managers, VPs, any kind of executives, anyone with a vision of how they want to run the business, or a way that their company works, whether it's how they evaluate a prospect, some sort of a project or subsurface workflow. They will come to us, and we will help them build their vision of an enterprise-wide application that meets their needs, because we found that every single company has a very unique way of running their own Oval Office and their own company. So we found this really interesting niche of where there's no off-the-shelf products to run a lot of these basic fundamentals in an oil and gas company. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is bring efficiency and accountability and a piece of technology to an area of the business where it's never been seen before. People are using very outdated methods, or sometimes no methods at all, tracking with Excel spreadsheets, sometimes SharePoint sites, can be emails back and forth, PowerPoint presentations. So it's really exciting seeing someone's vision of how they want to work reflected in a piece of technology. And I guess the caveat with this is what 3U tries to bring is we want to put the building of the technology in the hands of the business or the leadership. So in order to make an application, design it from scratch, evolve it, change it, it does not require anyone from IT or any kind of custom development or coding. You hear a lot of development times for some specialized applications that can take months to even years to develop, and cost millions and millions of dollars. And we partner with IT, but essentially we're cutting out a lot of that development time and making sure that the vision of the business person, their vision is reflected in application and not lost in translation. Not in a bad way, but from having to translate it from someone else who's building it for them. And then this application that they build becomes, their application. It reflects their way of working, their culture. And then if it's going to support the business, our technology is sustainable in that it can evolve over time. So let's say exploration leader, number one, builds this fantastic application. Well, I think we all know how quickly the oil and gas business changes. Next week, they could acquire a new asset, or tomorrow they need to start tracking and measuring some different sort of KPIs. The technology, they're able to manage it, change it, and the application is meant to evolve over time. So it's never this static. You think of like a Microsoft Word or Excel where everything is relatively the same over time. So the technology is you never finish developing it. So it's constantly modifying, and sometimes when there's a big change or a small change, our goal is that it can reflect the changes in the business as they happen and not 6 months, 12 months down the road. So sorry, it was a bit of a mouthful for you.
Yeah, that's really great. I was wondering, like, when the company builds their custom application, who gets the rights to it? Because, like, does it ever happen that like a business like with your platform creates like a really great application, and then maybe some other companies like want to steal it or something? Like, what happens with that?
We very sophisticated. There's a whole bunch of the legal stuff that happens on the back end, which I cannot speak to and not a part of. But surprisingly enough, what we found is that although companies have many of the same issues or same problems, we've never had an instance of where one we wouldn't necessarily show show one client's application to another, because the work we do with a lot of these clients and how we've built their applications is very proprietary and confidential. A lot of times we're helping them with strategy execution and whatnot. So we're very careful in how we demonstrate, ideas or concepts of one application, to the outside world or to another client. But surprisingly, I guess everyone wants to have their own method, their own way of working. And actually, funnily enough, the company, when it was started, kind of ran into a similar situation of what you're describing, and that they had the company a long time ago had built a fantastic application that they thought they could go and, with permission of the company, they said you can go out and market it and sell it. And as the leadership took this application around all these different companies and tried to sell it and said, look at this, fantastic application, it's got everything you need. Well, what they found was that every company that they approached, no matter how great this application was, said, yeah, it's great, but we do things slightly differently, and that's, we don't quite do it that way. So surprisingly enough, I've yet to find someone that wants to take exactly, the same concept frame model of one person, because each oil and gas company is so unique and individual. So
I see.
That makes sense. Well, okay, so here's an example. Let's say that we have a company that acquires the assets of another company. Let's say, and this happens all the time, like a large company will say, okay, this is just not in our strategic, we want to be a pure play company, so we're going to get rid of everything that's not in the Permian Basin. So a company says, okay, well, I'm going to acquire everything you have in, say, the Eagle Ford in Texas, and I'm going to start that as my new company. Can you take a company that has just basically evolved or birthed itself by strategic acquisition and help them get started?
Absolutely, and we really haven't seen any limit to the size, shape, kind of approach of the different companies that we've been working with or talking to. And each of them, their vision and where they are maybe in their, company growth model, they're going to have a different strategy that they want to pursue, a different way that they want their business run, and a different way they want their people to be managed in order to kind of execute on that strategy. So we kind of fit this very unique space, what we call the white space, which is often kind of a gap that's missed in many of these companies. So, so if it's a long-standing, stable, mature company, or a lot of times we're finding that some of these smaller spin-off companies or newly formed companies do not have the IT capacity or infrastructure and don't want to go out and spend, a lot of money in that area. And so where we come in is with one application and kind of one overarching tool that can help facilitate their very limited workforce and make their work much more impactful and more efficient. And we call it the single source of the truth. So you're tracking in this one locale, essentially. We find that very useful for a lot of these startup companies that, cannot be managing many different elements or pieces.
So it works for like private equity startups and ones that have intense reporting responsibilities to their investors, things like that.
Yeah, and not to get too technical, but the platform itself is agnostic, so it doesn't I guess matter or care whether the application is built for an oil and gas company, or if it was a healthcare company or anything else. Think of the platform as you're building like Lego building blocks. So it's a web-based application, and the user through the web, so through the interface, can build and manage its own applications in the similar sense of maybe, playing with Lego blocks. It's a lot of iterations, like, oh, this kind of works or nothing. And so name changes or, the stages or business process information that's gathered, the system itself, the technology doesn't really care, what, if it's in oil and gas or if it's man camp bookings out in the lodges. It can fit any kind of niche that you need. So, which is rather exciting when I think of it after finishing my MBA, when I think of the technology at hand, taking it beyond oil and gas. We happen to stay in oil and gas because we're very familiar with it. I'm a geologist. Our CEO is a geologist as well. And so the language that we speak, we can easily translate the vision of our clients to an application generally. So, but it's really fascinating. Yeah. So it could be, tracking acquisitions or M&A or anything in private equity, whatever you want to track and manage around what humans are doing, it can easily be done. So it's really exciting. And I think it's a really unique space in oil and gas. And I think we're starting to address a lot of the challenges around managing people, managing an organization that the industry has been trying to solve for years and years and years and years. And so hopefully getting the word out and showing people that there's a different way is really, really exciting.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I forgot that you sent us some slides. Did you want to go over those, or?
Absolutely, yeah. Be happy to show you some of those.
Oh, good.
So I'll be very, very brief in these. These are just some of the few of what we have. Am I able to move on? Oh, yeah. So kind of go through these very quickly and briefly. So part of what I'll be presenting on at the UPitch presentation is showing that there is this very distinct gap in the research that I've done over the past several years, especially in this downturn, of there being a tremendous amount of technology being placed kind of in the field operations around efficiency, drilling, different fluids, frac types, etc. But what we found is that in the kind of, I would say, the office side of things, or maybe the human on another area of the company, we're seeing that their methods of technology or the way that they're working haven't really changed and are still using very basic tools, web, Excel, emails, PowerPoints, and whatnot. So we've seen this huge gap and where a tremendous amount of efficiency can be gained by using technology to help run the business and help make the work done by employees much more efficient and effective. So there we are. We're kind of filling this gap there in that space. And we'll go on to the next slide. So very briefly, kind of when people are wondering where do we fit kind of in everything. So what we typically like to say is that we are filling this void right there in the middle that we call the white space. And you'll see around the side, you have a lot of, the big data. You've got a lot of your email and document HR forms, that kind of technology. And down below, you have various applications and pieces of technology from around the entire oil and gas operations, your seismic interpretation, all your real-time production data, et cetera, and of course, all the work that's being done within a company has to go through some sort of stage gate process, whether it's formal or not. So, if you're evaluating, let's say, prospects, you're doing, appraisal development, etc. Everything is probably some sort of process and checkpoints along the way. And what we found there is that there's a disconnect between all this tremendous amount of work and knowledge that's being done by the people that work in the company. So, your scientists, your production engineers, your operations, whomever, connecting the work that they've done and their analysis of their data, the so what, and connecting it with a decision that has to be made, kind of this very overarching management structure or management overlay. And ultimately, the work that's being done by people needs to feed up to management in a way and tell a story of, should we drill? Did I technically assure this work? Who's going to do what or where? And so we are kind of this thin overlay of collecting decisions made and why things were done, and we call it tracking the single source of the truth, essentially in the work that's being done. So when people want to look back and say, well, why did we evaluate this project, or who approved this version of our risk analysis, and when did they approve it? How was this capital made? Any of those kind of elements we're trying to answer. And it's a very simple repository of knowledge of the work that's been done over time by people. And in a two-sense way, it helps management obviously see, it opens up visibility to a wealth of knowledge of the status of what's going on below them. But then on the flip side, for a user, we have users that come in to help us with the beta testing to get their input, because ultimately, management can create this fabulous application, but if the users don't use it and feel a sense of connection, it's unlikely it's going to be very successful. And we found that for the users, they have an easy way to track and manage their work in a single place, and that all of their work, every single bit of their projects or work that's being done is going to be seen by management. And instead of spending tremendous time documenting all the work, and you think of the many, many hours that are spent preparing PowerPoint presentations for meetings, etc. This is a way to easily make that visible to everyone that needs it, and then it stores it and archives it in a way that's meaningful and can create benchmarking metrics, and kind of maybe facilitate culture change or learnings. So we see benefits from both sides, as from a management perspective of how they're running the business and seeing maybe where the gaps are, with the work that's being done down below. And then also for people who are using the system, they're able to, enter in their information once in a very simple but semi-structured way, so that the bosses will always know where to look for that latest information or that approved piece of information. So very, very exciting. And lastly, if you go on to the next slide, these are some of the questions that we're trying to kind of answer from leadership. So not highly technical data, but a lot of that gap that we see in oil and gas is around kind of human activity, that unstructured data, and a lot of it has to do with the why. Like, why did we do something, or who did it? Where was information? It could be great to have a file folder full of someone else's interpreted seismic line or whatnot. But if we aren't capturing the critical why components of this whole thing, and the decisions that were made on that, this is just very, very useful. So, and then lastly, on the last slide, we'll just show what we've heard from leadership and what they said that they need as far as a technology application that will meet their needs. Obviously, a short development time. We try and get something up and running less than a month is our time frame. Get it into the hands of the users, get them using and iterating from there. Leaders want something that'll evolve with them, so you're not building it today and 2 years down the road you're kind of stuck with it, because things naturally change. They're, look backs, meaningful metrics. These are all unique to every different company. So from an application we might build with company A, the meaningful metrics, and things that they want to track is going to be different from company B. They want to be flexible and sustainable, and our kind of tagline for that is we call it just enough structure. So our technology, we try not to put anything, people into a box or make it too rigid. As a geologist, I understand the need for freedom and creativity, and so we're trying to straddle kind of two worlds of allowing users and the application to be fully creative, not constrained as check boxes, but you're forming it in a way that makes their work more efficient, and you're capturing the right data or the right information at the right time in the right way, so that by the time that you get to that look back stage, our goal is that we would have collected the information correctly in the first part as the person worked, so that when they get to that look back stage, it should be already done and complete. We found a lot of companies, a lot of leadership have said that by the time they finish the project and they're ready for the look back, it's a 3-man-year time period in order for them to go back and look at all the data and whatnot. And so if we can help with look backs, almost immediately, or a post-drill analysis, that's huge. And lastly, I think, which is especially relevant for this time, is helping facilitate culture change. Obviously, people have to help change people and their way of working, but we think that there's an element of technology that can help facilitate change in how leaders want their people to work, and they can do that with a piece of technology. So I'll hold off on the rest of the slides. They can you can see the rest in the youth pitch presentation. So
that's amazing. It's an amazing platform, amazing service, making business more efficient and better. So we have a special question that we always ask on Life Edge. Do you want to ask the question, Susan?
Okay, definitely. Okay, Sasha, in your life, what do you think it is that has given you a special edge?
I've been extremely fortunate, and I don't know how this is, and it's going to sound very cheesy, but I somehow have managed to find incredible bosses, mentors, you name it. People wonder why, working for 3 years or anywhere else, I've just been so blessed to have bosses and mentors that are so stellar and outstanding. And I give a shout out to my boss, Candy Lou Katz, who's the CEO of 3Gig. And I think all of those mentors that have kind of taken me under their wings, they've definitely given me insights and given me a sharper edge of how to work, how to handle myself, and keep chugging on forward. So
yeah, that's great. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time, so I'd just like to thank you for coming on, Sasha. It's been really amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, and thank you.
And to viewers out there, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Life Edge. Have a good one.